Today we reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, verse 24. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 24. Rajamargam gate Krishne Dwarkaya Kulastriya Harmanya Aruru Vipra Tad Ikshana Mahotsava.
When Lord Krishna passed over the public roads, all the ladies from the respectable families of Dwarka went up to the roofs of their palaces just to have a look at the Lord. They considered this to be the greatest festival.
Text 25. Nityam nirikshamana yad api dwarka kaukasham na vipritapyanti hi drisha shriyodhamangam achutam.
The inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satisfied.
Text 26. Shriyo nivaso yashyora pana patram mukham drisham bahavu loka palanam saranganam padambujam.
The Lord's chest is the abode of the goddess of fortune. His moon-like face is the drinking vessel for eyes which hanker after all that is beautiful. His arms are the resting places for the administrative demigods, and his lotus feet are the refuge of pure devotees who never talk or sing of any subject except his lordship.
Text 27. Sitata patra vyajanir upashkrita prasuna varshir abhivarshita pati prishanga vasha vana malya babu dhano yato kodupa chapa vedyuta.
As the Lord passed along the public road of Dwarka, his head was protected from the sunshine by a white umbrella. White feathered fans moved in semicircles, and showers of flowers fell upon the road. His yellow garments and garlands of flowers made it appear as if a dark cloud were surrounded simultaneously by sun, moon, lightning, and rainbows.
Text 28. Pravishtastu graham pitro parishvakta swamatrabhi vavande shirasha sapta devaki pramumukha mudha.
After entering the house of his father, he was embraced by the mothers present, and the Lord offered his obeisances unto them by placing his head at their feet. The mothers were headed by Devaki, his real mother.
Text 29. Taha putram ankam arupya snehasnuta payodhara harsha valitamana sishu churnetra jalahi.
The mothers, after embracing their son, sat him on their laps. Due to pure affection, milk sprang from their breast. They were overwhelmed with delight, and the tears from their eyes wetted the Lord.
Text 30. Atha vishat swabhavanam sarvakamam anuttamam prasada yatra patninam sahasrani chaso dasha.
Thereafter, the Lord entered his palaces, which were perfect to the fullest extent. His wives lived in them, and they numbered over 16,000.
Text 31. Patnya patim proshya granupagatam vilokya sanjata mano mahotsava utashtur arat sahasa nasayat sakam vratir Lochana Nana.
The queens of Lord Shri Krishna rejoiced within their minds to see their husband home after a long period abroad. The queens got up at once from their seats and meditations. As was socially customary, they covered their faces shyly and looked about coyly.
Text 32. Tam Atmajar Drishtibhir Anatratmana Duranta Bhava Parire Patim Niruddham Api Ashravad Ambu Netrayor Vilajatinam Bhrigu Varya Vaiklavat.
The inseparable ecstasy was so strong that the queens, who were shy, first embraced the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually, and then they sent their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But, O chief amongst the Brigus, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears.
Text 33. Yad yapi ashu parshva gato raho gatas tathapi tasyangri yugam navam pade pade ka virameta tat padach chalapi yachirirna jahati karhichit.
Although Lord Sri Krishna was constantly by their sides, as well as exclusively alone, his feet appeared to them to be newer and newer. The goddess of fortune, although by nature always restless and moving, could not quit the Lord's feet. So what woman can be detached from those feet, having once taken shelter of them?
Text 34. Evam nirpanam kshiti bhara janmanam akaksha un ibhi parvita tejasam vidyaya vairam swashno yathanalam mitho vadeno parato nirayudah.
The Lord was pacified after killing those kings who were burdensome to the earth. They were puffed up with their military strength, their horses, elephants, chariots, infantry, etc. He himself was not. Am I reading this the right one? Yeah.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are. It's right.
Sorry. He himself was not a party in the fight. He simply created hostility between the powerful administrators, and they fought amongst themselves. He was like the wind, which causes friction between bamboos and so sparks a fire.
Text 35. Sa esha nara lokesmin avatrina swamayaya Remi Sri Ratna Kuttasto Bhagwan Prakrato Yatha.
That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, appeared on this planet by his internal potency and enjoyed himself amongst competent women as if he were engaging in mundane affairs.
Text 36. Uddama Bhava Pishunna Mala Valguhasa Vriddhavoloka Nihato Madano Piyasam Samhuya Chapam Ajahat Pramodautamasta Yashendriyam Vimatikum Kuhakirnashe Kuhu.
Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord.
Text 37. Tam ayam manyate loko ya ashangam api sanginam atma pamena manujam vyapranavanam yato buddha.
The common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached.
Text 38. Etad ishanam ishashya prakrati stopi tad gunaha Na yujyate sadatmastir yatha buddhistad ashraya.
This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by their material qualities.
Text 39. Tam manera balamuddha strinam chanuvartam raha aparmana vido bhartur ishwaram matayo yatha.
The simple and delicate women truly thought that Lord Sri Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as the atheist are unaware of him as a supreme controller.
Thank you, dear devotees.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So nicely recited. Thank you, Kusumbit, for the English, and Ganga Mataji for the Sanskrit. Thank you so much for reciting that so lovely with devotion. So today's discussion on Chad will be actually a summary of the Canto 1, Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is Lord Krishna's entrance to Dwarka. And the previous chapter was Chapter 10, departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. So just quickly recite, not quickly, I'll recite the invocation prayers. Om Jnana Timandasya Jana Jana Shalakaya Chakshurmanatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Prabhida Mayam Tadati Swaptatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakavana Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Padishana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shivada Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivishtakavatam Sja Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Chakapate Profesha Gopta Santa Vada Sadha Namustate Taptakachana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Satadigi Panamami Haripaye Panchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaiva Cha Patitara Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasa Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to tonight's chant class. My name is Krishna Govinda, and I seek all blessings from all the participants and from my special master, Srila Bhakti Swami, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Swami Tenamane, and to ISKCON founder Acharya, Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamane, Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nevashesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatayane. Kindly ask for your blessings and the blessings of the spiritual masters so I can speak on the glorious topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have the scenario in this particular chapter, Lord Krishna's entrance to Dwarka. The previous chapter, chapter 10, the departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. It's actually a very sad occasion. It's like completely two different scenarios. The first scenario, for when Lord Krishna is leaving Dwarka, everyone's feeling very sad. They've had all this association, they've had the protection, they've had Krishna taking care of their personal needs from the time of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And as he was departing, everybody's so sad to leave. They don't want him to leave. They actually follow him for a very long portion of the journey until a particular point where Lord Krishna followed on this journey to Dwarka and made his own way. But during that time, there's a particular mood that everyone was feeling. that mood is called Lamba, the mood of separation. So we can see from that, if many of you have been tuning in on every sort of daily classes on this Srimad Bhagavatam on this particular canto 10, with Krishna's departure to Dwarka, and it actually explains about, and prior to that, the chapter where Kunti recites the prayers to Lord Krishna. She's actually praying to Lord Krishna, please, please, please do not go. You know, you've kind of protected us from all the different calamities that we've been facing, where there was the destroying of Draupadi, by the killing of Barnabas, through the poisonous gate, through the fire, through the palace which they built made of wax. They tried to burn the Barnabas through that time itself. But Lord Krishna was always protecting them at every stage. And even Yudhishthira felt very, very disorientated, because he felt that this whole war was taken because of his selfishness. If he had actually just accepted whatever he could have had, then there was no need to lament, there was no need to have this war in the first place. But of course, there was a genuine reason why the war took place, and I'll explain that further on. It's obviously through the plan of the Lord, and the war was inevitable because of the way the Barnabas were treated, Queen Kunti was treated, Draupadi was treated. Then eventually Lord Krishna also went and spoke to Yudhishthira Maharaj and said, you must try and take some instructions from Bhishma Dev. He's coming to his last final stages of his life. And Lord Bhishma Dev gave him really wonderful words of instructions to Yudhishthira and the Pandavas. So as they were leaving, they were all very sad to see Krishna leave. And that feeling, the mood of separation, is called Vripalamba. I'll just quickly share this with all of you. So I'll have to share the screen again. Can you see that on the screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Does anybody want to read this? Just the first 2 paragraphs.
I can read.
Yes, sure. Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Vipralamba is the mood of separation. To understand, if we have to know. According to the revealed scriptures, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, is eternal and his pure devotees are eternal. But how can the pure devotee in a human body be eternal like the God, like the Lord? If we try to find the answer to this question, then naturally we arrive at the following conclusion. Pure devotees live their lives according to the instructions of the Supreme Lord, and their words are but the external sound manifestation of the Lord's internal desire. Therefore, we individuals who are desirous of making this extremely rare human birth brim with loving devotion must renounce our own desires, which are inimical to the scriptures and born of the speculative mind. Rather, we must live our lives following the instructions of our pure devotee, initiating spiritual master, Diksha Guru, and the instructions of us instructing spiritual master, Shiksha Gurus. The more the people of this world, indulging in their own independence, give up the path of following in the footsteps of the pure devotees, the greater the chaos that will manifest in society. The Lord bestows his causeless mercy upon those who are non-duplicitous and completely surrendered unto him. Those recipients of the Lord's mercy will never have the fear of losing anything related to this material world. In the realm of pure devotion, the intense desire to achieve material gains, worship, and position are counted amongst the deadly things of the material world. To the extent to which we develop an attachment to the material gains, worship, and position, to precisely that extent we'll become confused and doubtful. Eventually, we'll become totally separated from the Lord and from the association of his pure devotees. The more we get separated from these manifestations of pure devotion, namely the devotees and the spiritual master, the greater we will undergo pain and suffering from the fears of this material world. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So there we're sort of getting this brief explanation about the importance about Pralamba. And it's so important to understand that when you have that feeling of separation, that is because that's in the mood of pure love for Krishna. You do not have any desires for any material ambitions. You do not have any desires to be somebody famous, to be worshipped, to have some recognition. You do not have any desires for any material attachments. In fact, anything you want to be attached, and your whole life, your whole soul, your heart, your words, mind, body, everything is completely dedicated to the Supreme Personality of God, please devotees. So when you actually feel that feeling, I mean, most of us have felt that as well. Sometimes when a particular festival is taking place at the temple, you have such a wonderful time participating in all the activities of the day, the festivities, whether it's the date program held in the morning, there's morning programs, or even the Abhishek of the Lordships, or even the class given by the senior devotees, the prasadam, participating, the association with the devotees. There is that feeling of loss and sadness and separation when you have to go back home and you realize, oh my gosh, I have to face the material world, I have to face reality. But if you can actually imbibe that mood of love that you felt during that day, you keep it with you, then of course that mood of separation will always be there, but at least that your thoughts and your mind and your memories will always be lingering onto the beautiful day that you've actually had with all the devotees. So similarly with the gopis, they were feeling so much separation when the Krura came to take Krishna and Balaram away from Vrindavan. They were feeling very suicidal. They did not want Krishna and Balaram to leave at all. They were fainting. They were very angry at the Krura. They were actually placing themselves in front of the chariot cart, which Krura was taking away Lord Krishna and Balaram. Even Mother Yashoda fainted at the thought of losing her son that was more dear to her own life. Even though she doesn't recognize Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there was so much attachment for Krishna that, she completely lost bewilderment of everything. And there was that mood of separation, of love for all the memories that they had, all the pastimes, the remembering Krishna protected all the inhabitants of Vrindavan from all the demons that were sent by Kamsa, or whether it was the forest fire, or whether it was Kalia who poisoned the lake, the Yamuna River. Krishna was always taking care of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And when he was leaving, there was so much feeling of anxiety, distress, almost to the point where they just wanted to leave their bodies themselves. So there are different types of stages of love as well. And the next stage, when Krishna actually enters Dwarka, it's a completely different atmosphere. When Krishna is actually leaving Hastinapura to go to Dwarka, everybody's sad. But once he arrives at Dwarka, everybody's so happy, everybody's so joyous, everybody hears the conch shell that Krishna blows. And what happens when Krishna's conch is blown? It actually reverberates the whole universe, the whole material manifestation. Everybody feels, oh, Krishna has arrived. The conch shell, Panchajanya, is so loud that it says that when Lord Krishna actually resounds his conch shell, even the wives of the demigods who are having babies in their wombs have miscarriages. And you can remember when the Bhagavad Gita, the intro for the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna actually blows his conch shell, the opposite army, they feel tremble, they feel their whole body trembling, the whole ground shaking, the sound of Krishna's conch shell. That's how powerful the sound is. Of course, that sound is not different from Krishna himself. It explains in this particular chapter that we were reading, chapter 11, that when he touches the conch shell, it becomes reddish because of the redness from his lips itself. So does anybody know what the word is? Although we know the word for the feeling in the mood of separation for love of Sri Krishna in the pure sense, what is the word used for the feeling of union and bondship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Does anybody know?
Separation is the pralamba.
Yeah. And what is the mood when one is in love and union with the Lord?
I forgot, Prabhuji. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, it's called Sambhoga. So Sambhoga Seva is actually a service mood, but one is in love and union with the Lord. So when you're actually in a relationship with the Supreme Lord, you have this union. You're always constantly meditating on the Supreme Lord. That is called Sambhoga. But of course, there's so many different moods and different manifestations that one feels when they're actually following the Supreme Personality of Godhead in different ways. So we're actually living in a particular situation where we're very fortunate that we can have different kinds of mood in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though we feel the mood of separation, we're feeling, well, I am praying to the Lord, but I'm still not feeling His presence all the time. Where is He? Why doesn't the Lord appear Himself personally? So this is a situation where we actually develop a different mood in serving the Supreme Lord. So the different types of union with the Supreme Lord, in this case, union with the Supreme Lord is Sambhoga. There's also Sadhaka. Sadhaka is actually recognized as one who performs devotional service in the stage of bondage as well. So it's almost similar to Sambhoga. There's another one as well, which is called Sadhya. Sadhya is one who is already a perfect devotee who performs devotional activity out of love. So somebody like Narada Muni is a pure devotee, is always constantly engaged in devotional service, spreading the holy names of the Lord, describing the beautiful pastimes of the Supreme Lord to every person he meets, whether it's a low-class person, the middle-class person, or a demigod. He's always constantly talking and discussing about the glorious topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, there's other sort of relationships with the Lord, Smaranam, when you're always constantly remembering the Lord's form, pastimes, His name, because whenever you think of the Lord, everything is complete. So whether it's His form, whether it's His pastimes, whether it's His name, they all actually have the same identification, and it's not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and of course, there's Archanam. Archanam is one where one worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the form in the temple. And we discussed this in one of our previous chat talks, and I mentioned that there's 8 different types of material or forms that you can worship the representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It could be a stone form, it could be a form made of jewels, it could be a form made out of wood itself, or clay, earth. And also within the mind, you can actually pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as well. So these are the different kind of relationships you can have with the Supreme Lord. Although the relationship is when you're actually always constantly serving the Supreme Lord in a pure state of mind as well. So when Lord Krishna is actually blowing the conch shell, everybody in Dwarka city, whatever they're doing, if they're doing some activities, or if they're resting, or if they're taking some prasadam, they actually abandon whatever they're doing and immediately go forward to greet Lord Krishna himself and welcome him with gifts, with ornaments, with garlands, with fresh fruits. And they worship him in grandeur as well. They're so glad to have the Supreme Lord come back again. It's just like when Lord Krishna was leaving Hastinapura, when the Pandavas were feeling distressed. And similarly, when Lord Krishna left Dwarka to go and sort of deal with the situation in Kurukshetra with the battle that was taking place between the Pandavas and Kauravas, all the inhabitants within Dwarka city were feeling very sad, were feeling very disheartened. So they were also feeling this separation mood of Viprama, of Krishna when he actually left. So they had the 2 scenarios, Sambhoga when he's arriving, and Viprama when he actually left as well. Now, does anybody know the reason why Dwarka city was built at all? Why Lord Krishna built Dwarka city, why he left Mathura to allow for the residents of Mathura to stay in Dwarka city? Does anybody know the real reason behind that?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, would you like to about this?
Is it because Jarasandh was attacking the Mathura Vasi often, and just to protect them, Krishna built Dwarka overnight. He called Vishwakarma,
Vishwakarma.
and then make him build Dwarka city in the middle of the sea, just to protect the resident of Mathura.
Yeah, that's right. It's Jarasandha, and I think it's also Salva as well. Salva tried to attack the city several times, again and again, and he'd be defeated every time. And Lord Krishna would be always thinking about the well-being and the safety of the residents, inhabitants of Dwarka, because obviously they know Krishna's always protecting them, but just like we have a mother and father protecting us, we're always feeling, insecurity to some degree. So we want somebody to come and protect us. So yes, Krishna actually built this beautiful city. He instructed Vishwakarma, the demigod of architecture, to build this particular city, a wonderful city. And this city itself, when we were reading the verses, it's so magnificent. You had great highways, you had different areas like the market area, the town hall, places of worship, places of meeting places, gardens, waterfalls, different kind of exotic plants and trees and flowers, and more than likely a variety and abundance of different species of animals, birds. Because of course Krishna's city would obviously have to be opulent, so it would be a variety of different kind of buildings, complex city, not like the way we see it nowadays, with traffic lights and traffic jams and everything. This would have been so opulent, full of jewels, laden flooring, opulent marbles. So this actually explains that Dwarka city itself, it's not just an ordinary city. And many of you probably seen the YouTube video of when they've actually discovered the lost artifacts from 5,000 years ago, when they actually do a carbon analysis of the artifacts, and it dates back to almost 5,000 years ago, and also some after 5,000 years ago. So it must have been a city, put upon a city. But of course, when Lord Krishna left, the whole city of Dwarka was actually sunk into the ocean of the sea at that time. So we actually understand when Lord Krishna actually came, there was one particular verse that we recited. I don't think we actually recited in this one, but it's one of the verses in the chapter. If I just share that with you. Verse number 7, actually, no, we didn't recite it in this one, but this is a beautiful verse. I'm going to share this with you. Okay. Text number 7 reads, Bhavayana Stvam Bhava Vishwa Bhavana Mameva Matata Swarit Pitya Pita Tam Sadguru Na Paramam Chade Vatam Dashnu Vavricha Britano Babavima. Translation: the creator of the universe, you are our mother, well-wisher, Lord, Father, spiritual master, and worshipable deity. By following in your footsteps, we have become successful in every respect. We pray, therefore, that you continue to bless us with your mercy. So when they actually greet the Supreme Personality of God and Krishna when he arrives, we actually pray to him like he was the creator of the universe, even greater than Lord Brahma, that he is the mother of all the inhabitants of Dwarka city, the well-wisher, the most friend and refuge, the Lord and Father. It's also acted as a spiritual master. So when you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a particular place, a meeting place that Lord Krishna has with all the different leaders within the clan to discuss about particular topics of the day, or if there was some sort of influx of danger that was approaching from armies that were attacking Dwarka city itself. They would have this particular meeting place, and Lord Krishna would invite all the senior leaders, including Uddhava, to come and discuss about what should be done. Of course, Krishna is complete. He doesn't need any instructions from anyone else, but he's actually acting as a head of, or figurehead of Dwarka city, but he's also setting an example that he's not making certain conclusions by his own desire, by his own willingness. He doesn't make hasty decisions, but he tries to interact with all the young leaders and also ask them what is your opinion? What do you think we should do? He confides into his confidential servitors, but what instructions should be done. Of course, Krishna doesn't need to take any instructions from anyone at all. He's not dependent on anyone at all, nor does he depend on anybody at all. But what he does it in such a way to set an example. Just like in the verse when the Bhagavad Gita says, whatever standards a great man, sorry, does anybody remember the verse? Whatever standards a great man performs, a great man will follow. Whatever exemplary action he takes, the rest of the world pursues. Just slip my mind from the top of my head. Whatever action a great man performs, common men will follow. Whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, the rest of the world pursues. So this is what he's doing. He's setting an example for everyone to follow in the same way that he is actually leading the society. In that way, there's no chance of any ambiguity. There's no chance of corruption. There's no chance of enmity created within the community, within the leadership role itself. He's done it in such a way that everyone has a certain sort of opportunity to have their voices heard as well. So there's another verse based on this particular verse from the Bhagavad Gita about Krishna saying that I am the mother, the father, the grandsire. Does anybody know what that particular verse is from the Bhagavad Gita? Share it on the screen with you. This is from chapter 9, verse number 17. Pitaha masya jagato mata data pitamaha vejam pavitra mamkara yiksama yajui vacha. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. And then it goes on further on. I am the object of knowledge, the purified, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, Sama, the Sama, and the Yajurvedas. But the sentence I wanted to sort of come to your attention, I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. It's very similar to the verse from text 7 of this particular chapter, where our mother, well-wisher, Lord, Father. So it's not only actually explaining that to Arjuna, that he is the mother, he is the father, he is the grandsire, but also the inhabitants of Dwarka city are actually accepting Lord Krishna as you are the mother, you are the well-wisher, you are the Lord, you are the father, you are the spiritual master, because you are the protector of this particular clan within the Dwarka city. So this is something very important that we have to understand, that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. He also acts as a mother. He provides everything that we need in the form of food, in the form of air, in the form of life. He's also protected us as a father personality as well. So as a spiritual master, of course, we know Lord Balaram is the prime guru, the original spiritual master. Then from him, he expands as Lord Nityananda, and all the Shakti of Vaishnava in the form of spiritual masters come from Lord Nityananda and Balaram. So these spiritual masters are not just ordinary personalities, as long as they are following the authorized sampradaya, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna himself. When he actually passes that spiritual knowledge from one personality to another personality, like in this case, the Son God, Vajrashram, and to Manu, the Father Mankind, and to his son Ikshvaku. As long as they're following in that disciplic succession, as spiritual master is considered to be bona fide. We also mentioned that there were 4 sampradayas. There was Brahma Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, and the Sri Sampradaya or Lakshmi Sampradaya in one of our previous chat classes. Okay. So when Lord Krishna actually came to Dwarka, actually this is a question I remember asking one of the spiritual authorities who was given a class, that during the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it's actually mentioned that Lord Krishna actually was given an option to Arjuna and Duryodhana when they came to see him for support in this battlefield of the Battle of Kurukshetra. He said that you can either have my army or you can have me. And then Arjuna went first, and obviously Duryodhana was disappointed. He's going to say, of course, he's going to ask for your army, isn't he? It's like so many thousands of men in his military. But who did Arjuna ask? He just asked for Lord Krishna to be his guide. But then Duryodhana said, no, and in that case, that's great, I'll have your army. But when we actually see the army, I asked the question, was his sons, Lord Krishna's sons and grandsons, involved in the fight of the Battle of Kurukshetra? But the answer I got was that no, the sons and the sons' grandsons weren't involved, but certainly the army of Lord Krishna himself were actually involved in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Because in this particular verse, in one of the verses that we read from this translation, it actually mentions Lord Balaram, Prajumna, his other sons like Samba and everybody else, and his grandsons came to greet Lord Krishna as soon as they heard the Kulsha that Krishna had blown. They came to greet him, and they were so overjoyed that Lord Krishna had come back again, and they were actually very excited to see Lord Krishna come back and stay with them. And of course, more than anybody else, who was happy to see Lord Krishna come back, return to Dwarka? The queens.
The
Krishna's-
queens of Dwarka.
Yes, the queens of Dwarka. Thank you very much. The queens were so happy. And what happened? They were so happy. They were trying to contain themselves from crying. But as soon as they embraced the Lord, what happened? All the emotions came out. And these queens are not just ordinary personalities, they're considered to be as beautiful as goddess of fortune. And actually mentions that that even like Cupid could not restrain himself when he sees these beautiful queens of Lord Krishna. Even Lord Shiva, even though he may be the protector of the devotees and controller in a certain way, but even then, he is unable to control himself as well when he sees the beautiful queens as well. It's one of the verses from this particular chapter he reads. So these queens actually mentions that they were so beautiful, and Prabhupada in one of the, or rather in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a particular verse, it says that sometimes men actually fall head over heels when they see a beautiful woman, and it actually says that even if a woman was to raise his eyebrow up, even the strongest person would actually fall down on their knees. That's how strong they become so weak when they see the beauty of a woman. And then the Prabhupada explains about an example like Queen Cleopatra. She was so beautiful, but yet all the other kings in Rome, like Antony and Julius Caesar, they were so smitten with her beauty that they fell on their knees and wanted Cleopatra to be their wives. So it just shows you, like, in this whole universe, which is surrounded by stories of, even when you see the story of Persian army, how they attacked or the Helen of Troy, just because of the abduction of a woman, that war took place between the two armies. Just like Ravana, he was so feeling very lusty over the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, that he lost his life because of this envious and lusty sort of desire he had within him. So, but these queens, they're not just ordinary personalities, they're actually only meant for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna himself. And this Krishna actually says in this particular verse that he's not actually affected at all, even though us ordinary mortals may be affected, but Krishna's not affected in whatever way at all when he sees the beautiful queens. This is beyond any control or contaminations at all. But out of love for his queens, he also shows affection for them, just like the way he shows his affection for his sons, and shows affection for his grandsons as well. So we're just going to be stopping there in a short while. I think one of the things that when the inhabitants came to see Krishna, they didn't feel satiated at all. Because satiation is a desire, something that has to be fulfilled. Like when you have a dinner or when you've done something wonderful, you feel fully satisfied. You don't want to eat any more than what you can eat. But here, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, when they see Krishna, when they see his beautiful form, they just do not get tired of seeing this ever-fresh face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They constantly wanted to see his face again and again and again, because by seeing his face again and again, they feel completely satisfied within their hearts that there's no other purpose to live other than actually completely being an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in one of the verses, it actually describes that the Supreme Lord is infallible, Achyutam. He comes to the world, and he's still doing the supreme, although he comes as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he comes in the form of a human being. But even then, because of his Yogamaya potency, he covers his position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and people don't necessarily see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they see him as a superhuman being. But this does have the particular reason, because the Supreme Lord does not want to be admired as the Supreme Lord. He wants to see everybody equally, and he wants to treat everybody equally as well. I think that's about it. Is there any questions or comments or corrections anybody wants to raise? So this is just covering a commentary on Lord Krishna entering Dwarkapuri. I just hope I've been able to explain it in such a way. Of course, it's nowhere near as nice as the way Srila Prabhupada explains it in his purport, and the purports are so beautiful that if you do get a chance to read the purports, as Krishna goes into deeper detail about all the particular verses that are recited by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. Okay, so just to recap, we were talking about the feeling of separation when Lord Krishna was leaving Hastinapura, leaving the Pandavas. He was leaving I suppose he was actually leaving Hastinapura to come to Dwarka to be actually with the residents. But at that time, everybody was feeling separation. That feeling of separation is called Vipralamba. But at the same time, when it was entering Dwarka, everybody was so joyous, everybody was so happy, everybody was excited to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though they were feeling the mood of Vipralamba when he left, because he had this duty to carry out, they were so happy. And the other words which are used for feeling of service and mood with the Supreme Lord is called Sambhoga. And there's also other sort of mood of servitude with the Supreme Lord, Sadhaka, one who performs devotional service in the stage of bondage. And there's also Sadhya, Seva, which is one who is already a pure devotee, is performing pure devotional service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly at all times. And then it was explaining about the different personalities who came to see the Lord, worshipping him and offering flowers, offering different ornaments and paraphernalia to the Supreme Lord. And then when he arrives, then the queens come to greet the Supreme Lord. They feel very shy, very bashful. First of all, they feel they're not sure exactly what to do, and then eventually they embrace him, and all the feelings of love, tears, immediately come to their senses. And then when the Supreme Lord comes, and of course Lord Balaram, Jambavan, and Samba, which is Krishna's son, comes, Lord Balaram comes, everybody comes to greet Krishna, Prajumna, and so forth. Okay, so I believe Anju Mataji is going to be singing a song on Raghupati Raghava. Is that right, Anju Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
Prabhuji. Yes, yes.
Okay. Did you want to read the translation, first of all?
Yeah, I think somebody was supposed to read the translation.
You can
Hare
read if you
Krishna
want.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. I will be reading the translation.
Okay, Mataji, yeah, sure.
Okay. The Lord of Raghus, the descendant of Raghu dynasty, King Ramachandra, the purifier of the fallen, glories to Shri Shri Sita Rama. The beautiful deity forms are dark as a thunder cloud, glories to the Ganga, Tulsi Devi and Shaligram Shila. The auspicious lord of the mountain, Sita Rama, the ones dear to the devotees, Sita Rama, the beloved of the daughter of Janaka, all glories to Sita Rama, all glories to the descendant of the Raghu dynasty, Sita Rama. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I am going to sing Raghupati Raghav Rajaram. Raghupati Raghav Rajaram Patit Pavan Sitaram. Raghupati Raghav Rajaram Patit Pavan Sitaram. Sitaram, Sitaram, भज प्यारे मन सीताराम. सीताराम, सीताराम, भज प्यारे मन सीताराम. रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम. सुंदर विग्रह मेघा श्याम गंगा तुलसी शालिग्राम. सुंदर विग्रह मेघा श्याम गंगा तुलसी शालिग्राम. भद्रगिरीश्वर सीताराम भगत जन प्रिय सीताराम. भद्रगिरीवर सीताराम भगत जन प्रिय सीताराम. जानकी रमणा सीताराम जय जय राघव सीताराम. जानकी रमणा सीताराम जय जय राघव सीताराम. रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम. रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Anjumataji. That was very nice. You want to share your videos?
Sorry,
Are you okay to share your videos so everyone can see who you are?
I can't understand, Prabhuji. The voice is little.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just saying, did you want to share, or did you switch on your video so everyone can see who you are singing this beautiful song?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anjumataji. That's really nice.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Very beautiful. Thank you for singing that as well, and hopefully you sing again as well in the future sort of chat sessions. So there, we're just going to conclude our session for today's chat. Please forgive me for any mistakes, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to give a Bhagavatam class, and pray that I could continue to serve their lordships in such a way and the devotees. Anchakapa Tarubhyascha Vipasindibhavacha Patitara Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for a very nice class.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Beautiful class.
Bye,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.